The clockmaker's garden asterisk. I still hear their voices on some days, those final words echoed in every classroom, every boardroom, every snarl from my colleagues. Waste of time, you'll always be a failure. They said that the day my research on faulty heart valves got me fired, that day I stood in front of a conference room full of men in crisp suits, their eyes narrowed as I was stripped of my degree, my career, and what little respect I'd ever garnered. My family knew not the asterisk what asterisk but the how asterisk, the way I'd fought for truth, the way I'd been crushed under the weight of their family legacy. A Blackman doesn't asterisk settle for second best. We saw, I left that day with nothing but a diary, a flickering hunger to rebuild and a question: how do you prove the world wrong when it's too busy dismissing you? Horology became the answer. They ridiculed me for chasing useless trinkets instead of medicine, but watchmaking is the art of precision. It's about tiny gears turning in perfect synchrony, about creating beauty in constraints. When the world told me I was too broken to fix anything, I found my rebellion in the infinitesimal. I didn't just build timepieces, I engineered asterisk solutions. Microscopic medical machines that could operate inside the human body without a scalpel, implantable devices that delivered drugs with surgical precision. My critics laughed, but they never understood the science or the spine it takes to rebuild after being shattered. Years passed, I bought a derelict greenhouse on the outskirts of town where rusted irrigation lines choked the soil like dead vines. The land was barren, cracked earth under a sun too harsh for hope, but I saw not dirt but a canvas. What if every crack could be a river, every seed a revolution? I began designing micromechanical systems, tiny pumps that filtered toxins, nanostructures that broke down pollutants, gear-driven sprinklers that mimicked rain. They said I was crazy to think such a place could bloom, but I built it anyway. My prototypes were delicate. A gear the size of a dime, calibrated to release nutrients into the soil at dawn. A microscrew that anchored seedlings in place until their roots could dig deep. People called it folly until it worked asterisk. The return asterisk. My father found me in the greenhouse, unpacking a Clockwork soil analyzer. His jaw was clenched, his eyes scanning the blueprints on the table. He hadn't visited since I left, and the silence between us had grown thick with unspoken regret. I brought the neighbors over, he announced shortly after. They'll see what you've done here. They arrived an hour later, the mother, the brother, the cousin who'd once scoffed at my artistic phase. They stood at the greenhouse threshold, arms crossed, faces taut with skepticism. "Let us in," I said. Inside, the transformation loomed. Sunlight streamed through skylights, illuminating soil teeming with life. Fruit trees bore clusters of iridescent fruit, flowers twisted into fractal patterns, their stems threaded with tiny irrigation tubes. Kids from the town played where only weeds once grew. The microengineering had worked on paper in theory and now here in practice. "This is your idea of success," my uncle jeered, eyeing a gadget humming softly on a workbench. It was a pollinator drone, its wings buzzing like a fly coated in pollen. "It's called innovation," I snapped. "But honestly, I'd like to know, when did asterisk you invent anything? You just sat in your office, writing checks for others' efforts." My father's face flushed. "This is reckless," he growled. "You're wasting resources." "And calling me an idiot for wanting a legacy beyond asterisk shame," I countered. "You wanted grandeur, I built it with my hands." The mother hesitated, then stepped closer to the thriving gardens. "Elias, it's beautiful, how'd you manage this?" I smiled. "By refusing to let any opening in the soil remain empty." The breaking point. The confrontation came at sunset. The neighbors had gone, the family lingered, now quieter. My father knelt by a tree his wife had planted years ago, a maple that had died from root rot 7 years past. He tried to nurse it back then. I guess this was his penance. "Tell me the cost," he asked. "Of all this?" I looked at the crops now bursting with yield, the pollinator fleets buzzing like tiny helicopters. "The same cost," I said, "you demanded of me back then. A quiet life on the margins while you hoarded practical achievements." He stood, fists trembling. "I never knew." "You asterisk should have asterisk," I interrupted, softening. "That maple. How many nights did you spend reading about grafting asterisk? It was a failure until I learned to work with the roots, not against them." I gestured to the garden. "Growth isn't about force. It's about patience, about tuning every part until you find harmony." The brother muttered something about the old days, but his eyes lingered on the crops. My mother finally spoke. We all want to be proud of something our children build. I nodded, so we did, we gave so much for mediocrity. The edge of a new dawns. The garden thrived that night. Even my father handed over a wrench to tinker with a gear. When they left, I didn't speak. I simply stood at the greenhouse door, watching them walk into the twilight. They were quieter now, as if the scent of fertile earth had softened their edges. Inside, I bubbled up toasted sesame seeds into a handful of oil, a snack for the workers. I felt their eyes on me now, not as the perceived failure, but as someone who'd turned their scorn into symphony. Later, alone, I crouched to write in the diary I'd kept since 2017. Behind the text, "Son," faintly heard, "the maker is never less than chance. Tend to the small and the world tends itself." The diary had begun with rage. Now it was a chronicle, a testament to how clockwork pays. Years later, my nephew would run his fingers through the soil, asking why I called it the Garden of Gears. I'd tell him a story. How humility, persistence, and the gentlest engineering could outlast a storm. In the end, I'd become the proof. They'd forgotten they ever said I'd fail. I'd made damn sure they'd never forget what failure looked like, just not who wore it. Epilogue: The Chrono Sprout. Years after the greenhouse, our machines grew. We built microfactories in deserts, turning scorched earth into vineyards. The seed was always the same: microscopic gears spun in harmony, each one a whisper of life refusing to die. And the Blackmans, they never spoke of regret, but I'd catch my mother every now and then tracing patterns in the dirt garden at her home. Planting things, she never told me if she liked it, but I knew, because I'd watched a broken root system become a forest, and in Dumris the wind carried the scent of renewal, and the quiet oath that sometimes the loudest laughter rings hollowest of all.